YouTube, check 1, 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 1, 2, 3.
We got you loud and clear. Do you hear us?
We sure do, Governor Lombardo. Thank you.
You know anybody at NDOT?
But you can if you want.
But I can. You can, yeah.
You can if you want.
All right, Tracy, you there?
I'm here, Governor. We're ready to go.
Okay, we'll call to order the Nevada Department of Transportation Board meeting scheduled for today, July 10th of 23 at 9:30 a.m. Can I have the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, good morning, Governor Joe Lombardo,
Present.
Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony,
Here.
Controller Andy Matthews,
Here.
Member Virginia Valentine,
Here?
Member Stephen Esquaga. Here. Member Justin Cobb,
Here.
and Member Gary Perea.
Here.
Governor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We will close the roll call and move on to agenda item number 2, public comment. First public comment is limited to comments on items on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment to the north?
There is no comment here in the north.
Any here today? Mr. Wellman, you want to speak? All right, we will close public comment, move on to agenda item number 3, and receive the director's report. Ms. Larkin?
Well, good morning, everyone. First, I want to state we have a change in the consent agenda. I'm going to state it here, and I'll probably restate it later. But we are removing items number 16 and 17 from the consent agenda. These are regarding excess parcels, number 18-17 and 18-18, but they will be removed from it, and you'll see them at a later date. So now moving into the director's report. Next slide, please. Just a couple quick updates on some of our projects in Vegas. The next slide, please. Oh, the slide's going to catch up. Is that like the Jeopardy music? There you go. Okay, in Las Vegas, we just want to report on the I-15 corridor project that's south of Tropicana. We are moving we're moving the lane shifts more north, so now it will go from about the limits of Henderson at Stephanie Street up to Eastern. You'll still see they'll be working on the number 1 lane and the median, and you'll see some more of the ITS features going in. On the next slide, on SR 361, we would just want to flag that we are hosting a public meeting to get feedback on the realignment of 13 miles of SR 61, which is accommodating the expansion of the U.S. Naval Fallon Range. The public meeting will be held in Fallon on July 18th from 4 to 7 p.m. You can also go online at dot.nv.gov/SR361. On the next one, on US 50, on the Tahoe East Shore, we will be installing a traffic signal at Warrior Way. This will actually begin in the next few weeks. We will also be removing some on-street parking on US 50, and then working with our partners to look for other ways, other areas for parking. So most of that street parking is there by Warrior Way and also by Zephyr Cove. Next slide. On the I-580 reconstruction, we continue in that. That's between Peckham Lane and Mill Street in Reno. We have another marathon weekend coming up, the weekend of July 22nd. And then we'll be reducing it down to just 1 lane in each direction. These marathon weekends do save us about a week of construction time during there, and we are looking to get as much work done before like hot August nights and other events planned in the Reno area. So on the US 395, next slide. On the US 395, the North Valley Phase 1B, this project will open up, the bids open up on Thursday of this week. We will be back in September to award the project, and the project will actually begin in September with actual construction beginning next year. We expect it to be complete by the end of 2025. Kind of flagging it, it will bring much-needed relief to the North Valleys. However, during construction, there will be significant impacts. So look to the future and the far future on there for the benefits. On the I-11 515 C15 Henderson interchange, the design build has 3 shortlisted proposers, Kiewit, Ames, and Fisher. This is approximately $350 to $400 million design build. We are going to be having a short presentation right after the director's report going over the design build alternative procurement method, just so we have many new members, and that'll to familiarize themselves with that procurement method. And then for a not-so-fun slide, but one that is have significant impacts on some of our roadways. This has been particularly in the northeast and the Elko area and surrounding areas. We've seen a little bit in some other parts of the state. The Mormon crickets, that is what is covering those roads. They come in, this happens there's certain to be a pattern. But when you run over them, and it's a kind of a funny way to say it. They just they make the road very slick. And since they're carnivorous, when they get run over and they get slick, more come to join them. So we actually plow them and we use sand, similar to like we would be clearing off snow to get them off the road and manage them. So these are very recent pictures. There's really nothing for us to do except wait it out. But those are our mitigation roads to keep it from being so slick.
Tracy, when you say wait it out, what is the standard operating cycle on that?
From what I've seen in the past, and this is just personal observation, it tends to be about a month. Does anyone have any other? I'm getting nods. So I'm looking at hopefully it'll be cleared out in about 4 weeks. But
All right, the reason why I'm asking is residents from Midas are continuing to call and asking for help, which it has nothing to do with your particular department, but I just wanted a sense of when it would end.
Okay, we will continue to monitor the roads and all the state roads in the area and keep a close attention to it because it really is very slick. So there actually is a lot of safety issues with that. So we have put out some temporary signs advising people to slow down. Next slide, this one is a much happier slide. So we did receive a $24 million raise grant for the Ely downtown project. That is in addition to a $5 million earmark that we had earlier. The total project is approximately $50 million, so these combined grants will cover over half of that. We can expect that to start next year, but this was a very happy thing to hear. So slick to happy. On the next one, we just wanted to point out that we've been working with the Office of OSIT, so Science, Innovation, and Technology, on a grant for broadband. And OSIT was the primary, they were the one who put the grant in, but we did win an $87 million grant, of which NDOT is participating with $35 million of matching funds over a 4-year period. This, along with some funds from the coronavirus capital funds, will put broadband and connectivity from the state line I-80, from California state line to the Utah state line, and also, and this one's huge, I mean, this one's really big, but actually connectivity from Wells on US 95 down to Las Vegas. And based on Member Pria's reaction during his briefing, you're welcome. It will, we have many, obviously, anyone who's driven that knows that's an area with very low coverage and a lot of connectivity things. So we hope to really upgrade how you can actually reach out and connect to some of the communities there working with OSIT. On the next slide, we just wanted to put out that we have NDOT has won an award from the Institute of Traffic Engineers, Mountain District. an award for the Transportation System Management and Operations, also known as TSMO, specifically for asset life cycle management. And it's basically looking at, it's based on innovations, commitment to advancing of the profession and applicable to the industry scope. And the winners of this are now, it now goes to the national level. So this is the state level. Actually, it's more than a state level. It's a Western region level, and it will go up to the national levels on there. And it's basically looking at the life cycle analysis of looking at our TSMO components, which are those overhead signs, all your RWIS, all the connectivity along around on the state, but how we actually look at them and manage them. So good job to our ITS department. Next one, I am actually going to turn it over to Darren Tedford here to talk a little bit about, give it some more details on a proposed temporary demonstration concept along US 50 on the South Shore. We are looking at just doing a temporary restriping just to see how a longer proposed change to striping could work or not work. Darren?
Thank you, Director. Good morning. NDOT prioritizes safety in all aspects of department planning, design, construction, operations, and maintenance to keep Nevada's commuters, commerce, and NDOT employees safe on the transportation system. The US 50 corridor from Spooner Summit to State Line averages over 100 crashes per year. 85% of this 13-mile corridor exceeds statewide average crash rates for similar facilities. During public outreach, 62% of residents prioritized high speeds and dangerous driving as a key concern. Operating speeds range from 11 to 15 miles over the speed limit, with many vehicles exceeding that. After 3 rounds of noticed public engagement opportunities, over 50 individual meetings with more than 800 participants, and receiving 575 public comments, we have heard a range of concerns from something must be done to improve safety to reconfiguration will cause gridlock. At this point, the best approach is to test the configuration on a short segment along the corridor. This will give NDOT and the traveling public an opportunity to see how the change might operate. NDOT will collect data on speed and other factors as well as monitor the merge points. At the end of the demonstration, the striping will be replaced with the current configuration. This configuration will not reduce pavement width. It will allow for the same facility for emergency management services and law enforcement, and would allow the same capacity for any evacuation event. After the demo, NDOT will be collecting public input via a survey to supplement the data we collect in the area, and will be used to inform future recommendations for the corridor. NDOT just recently met with Douglas County Fire and County Sheriff last week. We're coordinating with the Nevada Emergency Management and will be presenting this plan to the Douglas County Commission on July 20th. As stated initially, our priority is safety, so we want to continue to evaluate all options to improve the safety on this corridor.
And Governor, I have one more slide for retirees, so I was going to offer if there are any questions before we actually go to retirees and taking some pictures on the report.
Absolutely.
So any
Governor,
questions?
yeah, Governor, out of an abundance of caution, I'd like to make a disclosure, and that is that I have members that are interested in the Highway 50 project, and I know we're not voting today, but I do want to make a disclosure that I have pecuniary interest and will be abstaining from any action on that item
Okay,
when it
thank
comes
you.
before the board. Thank you.
Did the clerk hear her narrative?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right,
So are we making a decision on,
no, there's no
Yeah,
decision.
okay.
Just, the question was if there are any questions, and Member Esquaga has one.
Well, and very similar, I've been patient, I think, through the process. I've been on this board for about 3 years. And the discussion of Highway 50 is, obviously was in place before I came on the board. But I also just want to caution, again, we're not voting on approval, but I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to take place. I think there's been some very valid concerns. I think we all share the sentiment that we've got a safety issue on that stretch. my bigger concern on this test run was, in my briefing about a month ago, was really stressing, how are we communicating this out? Is it the right time? Are we communicating it out to the partners, the shareholders, the stakeholders? So I have a lot of concerns on it. I also think it's really a flag when you're saying that we're concerned about even doing a test. That should speak to a certain degree. I think we've got to be careful, but just for the record, before we start approving this too early, I think the test is valuable at some point. We've got to see what some of the ramifications are, but I just want to really go on the record of saying, I hope, especially for those that are more Southern Nevada centric, this is a very key stretch. I've been up to the lake a number of times over the last few months, really, and as this summer season comes in, it's even more apparent. But I just hope that we can have a real thorough discussion. I hope that we have reached out to I know you were saying we reached out to Douglas County last week, but we need to give adequate time. So anyway, that's my comments on that.
Yeah, this is Stavros Anthony. I also want to echo that I received quite a few calls over the weekend from a lot of businesses up there that are very concerned about doing this test during their peak tourist time. They don't know how this test would disrupt a lot of the events that are occurring up in Lake Tahoe, which is the unknown. They're not sure how it would affect transportation of their people going to concerts and the lake and things like that. So I didn't hear anybody say that they were against doing a test. It's the timing. So what I would ask you, Tracy, is to postpone the test until at least after Labor Day, and then do the test sometime after that.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor, it's Lori, the council. I think we're getting a little beyond the scope of the agenda with our discussions and our comments, and I think the point of this open was to ask questions regarding the director's report. This item needs to be on the agenda before we can have these discussions.
Okay, well that's just my comments on the test. If for some reason it looks like the test is going to go forward immediately, then I would probably submit an agenda item for the next board meeting to discuss postponing the test until after Labor Day. So if that doesn't happen during the next couple of days, then I'm going to ask for that agenda item, because I believe the test should be postponed. If that needs to be a discussion by the board at the next board meeting, I'll do that. If the director wants to do that unilaterally, then I'll see how that happens. So that's my comments as far as moving forward with the test.
Thank you, sir.
And Lieutenant Governor and the governor also brought this to talked to me this morning about it, and we did receive a letter from some of the stakeholders, the resort stakeholders up there. So we'll definitely work with them to make the timing on their accommodating. This is obviously not the last you're going to hear about this, but we are taking that into consideration, and I appreciate your remarks.
This is Member Kalb. Question for you. On your slide, it shows 1 month from early August to early September. Will we have that board meeting before this goes into effect?
I didn't have time to change the slide. On there, that was the time we were looking at. One of the original thoughts was to do it over a peak weekend with the idea of seeing how it actually worked on a holiday weekend. But we are adjusting.
Thank you.
This is Gary Perea. I basically kind of had the same question. I wondered if you could kind of expand on what the timing is and what you're trying to gather, and why you maybe pick this time as opposed to another time.
This is Darren Tedford for the record. The original timing was to do the test section as soon as possible, and the consideration of traffic volumes during the summer, fall, spring, winter, they were all taken into account. And the idea that to test this section when there was less traffic and have the test be successful would still leave a question as to what happened when there was more traffic. So the original timing was just based on as soon as possible, but part of the consideration we have to make, regardless of when we do the test section, is what were the traffic volumes at that time and what would they be at other times?
Also, I wanted to follow up is that we have a preservation project which will be awarded this fall, which will redo the pavement up there at the lake. So that will be happening next summer, so there won't be an opportunity to do a demonstration project during that actual part of the preservation project. That should begin early next spring, running through most of there, finishing up in early 2025. No permanent alterations to any striping would be made prior to 2025. But we do have the construction project in the middle of that. Okay, moving on to the last slide, which is happy for two people, not so happy for NDOT. But we'd like to say Bill Azell is retiring after 29 years. He started in 1994, worked primarily in design, and rose up to the position of Supervisor 3 Associate Engineer. And then also Kenneth Lenny Siri, who's down in Las Vegas, worked in the Tonopah area. He was 31 years. He worked through the maintenance series to the highest ranking level that we have in maintenance. Both have served us extremely well, and as you can see from the bottom, we are watching 60 years of experience walk out the door. So happy for them, not so happy for us. But Governor Lenny should be in Southern Nevada if he'd be so kind as to shake his hand and wish him well and then call him quitter. And then we'll do the same in the north with Bill.
I will do that. He's avoiding eye contact.
So, first of all, I want
Bear
to give a
with
round of
us.
applause for him, though. And Bill, are you here? Come on up. Good to see you.
Get in, come on. Come on, hit you with us.
Yeah.
man.
All right. Is he smiling?
Looks good. All right, I'm gonna take a few. 1, 2, 3. Right?
Oh, thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, they all do.
Of course.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lenny, come here.
Get a present too.
All right. Nevada NDOT, recognition of service to the state of Nevada Department of Transportation. Kenneth Lenny Siri. Is that how you say it, Siri?
Yeah.
You get confused when you get on your phone?
I'm getting money for that.
Oh, yeah. Recognition of 31 years. And the clock's not working.
Time stands still.
There we go. Here you go. There you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that,
Just so the audience knows, Ms. Larkin, Lenny conveyed that he's not leaving, he's just coming back as a contractor, so.
well, he's standing in line with the rest of them. That concludes the director's report. Thank you.
Did you want to do a presentation there to the north? Did you already do it?
We did it. We did it at the same time.
Oh, I didn't even see that, sorry.
Oh,
And Bill was kind of quick slipping out, so Governor might have to make a rain check for him to come back.
Is he, Oh, he slipped out?
We got him, but we'll do a follow-up maybe.
All right, so I can't even give him a verbal congratulations, huh?
We'll let him
Nope.
go, but no,
All right. Is he coming back as a contractor also?
not at this time.
All right, we'll catch up with him when he's done fishing. All right, anything else, Ms. Larkin?
No, just a reminder on the consent agenda that we have removed items 16 and 17.
All right, then we'll move on. We'll close agenda item number 3, move on to item number 4, presentation regarding the design build procurement for the Henderson Interchange Project for the reconstruction of I-215/15/11/Westlake Mead. It'll be informational only, but will that be you, Ms. Larkin?
No, that'll be Nick Johnson.
Okay, Mr. Johnson?
Good morning, Governor and board members. For the record, Nick Johnson, NDOT Project Management, and this morning I have a very brief presentation regarding the Henderson Interchange Design Build Project and then an update on the procurement process that I'll go over with everyone. But before we get to the update, I'll give everybody some background and what exactly we're doing out there with this interchange. So that what we refer to as the Henderson Interchange is the junction there of Interstate 11, the CC 215, Interstate 515, and then Lake Mead Parkway on the east. And this is one of the more significant interchanges in the Las Vegas Valley, serving a number of commuters and travelers every single day. And as many of us are aware, with the tremendous growth, not only in the valley, but I guess across the state, the demand on our system, and even specifically at this interchange, is outpacing the capacity for which it was originally designed for, needing some improvements. So really the purpose and the intent of this project is not only to improve the travel time reliability and reduce the congestion through the interchange, but probably more importantly, to resolve some of the existing deficiencies out there and improve safety for anyone using the interchange. So about 3 or 4 years ago, the department and the city of Henderson, recognized the need for improvements to this interchange. So we partnered together, started looking at improvements and alternatives for what this interchange could do to accommodate that demand. And that led to the NEPA, or environmental process. And then last fall, we were able to complete that NEPA process and receive approval from Federal Highways in October. Around the same time, our team also looked at what's the most efficient way to deliver this, major project and get those improvements out to the public as quickly as we could. And so we determined that the design build delivery method would be most appropriate for this project. And per statute, we received approval from the board in November to move forward with the design build process. And so the graphic that you see here on the screen shows the proposed improvements of the interchange. It's a unique design, a crossover style system, really intended to move, get the major movements flowing between the interstates more efficiently. But there's a number of operational and safety improvements, included braided ramps and auxiliary lanes, which really help to eliminate and minimize the conflict points on the ramps and the interstates from the interchange, so that you can keep traffic going through, and again, just improving safety for the traveling public. We're also restoring some of the local connectivity through the interchange with the reconnection of the Lake Mead Parkway and Gibson Road access on the northwest side there. I would also say too, there, kind of a fun note, there's a total of 27 bridges within the project footprint. 22 of them are going to remain in place or be rehabilitated or widened, 5 demolished, and 11 new bridges constructed. So, there's quite a few, or a lot of bridge work on this job, and even just trying to maintain traffic while doing so, there's a lot of complexities, that's why we chose the design build method for this project. And as Director Larkin mentioned earlier, the estimated construction costs are about $350 to $400 million. So a little bit about the procurement process. As I mentioned, we received approval in November, and then early this year, the first step was advertising a request for qualifications for design build proposers. Now, NRS 408 or the statute requires that we must receive a minimum of 3 qualified proposers, but no more than 5 to move forward with the next steps. So towards the end of May, we received 3 statement of qualifications. Our team evaluated those to ensure that all proposers met the qualifications to do this project. And as we mentioned earlier, we were able to shortlist 3 proposers: Kiewit Infrastructure West, Ames Construction, and Fisher Sand and Gravel. So now we can move forward with our next steps in releasing the request for proposals to these 3 shortlisted proposers. So here on this slide on the right is kind of a high-level overview of the total or the overall project timeline, just to give you a sense where we started and what we anticipate moving forward. But on the left in the bullet points talks a little bit more about the procurement schedule itself. So those shortlisted proposers were notified there in mid-June, all 3 of them. We anticipate issuing and releasing that final RFP to those 3 proposers in late August, early September. And then between that time and either the end of this year or early 2024, those teams will be working on developing their proposals. We'll be answering questions and meeting with them one-on-one. And then at that time, when they submit their final proposals, our team will go through a robust evaluation process of all those proposals and then come back to the board next spring for 2 actions. One, to ratify the selection of that apparent best value proposer and then award the design build contract to that proposer. And assuming that all goes well, we'll get started immediately with the design and hopefully start construction late summer, fall of next year. And that concludes my brief presentation, Governor. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions of any board members? Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, can you provide that slide deck to the board members post-meeting?
I sure can.
All right, thank you. All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll close agenda item number 4 and move on to agenda item number 5, consideration of approval of the June 12, 23 Department of Transportation Board of Directors meeting minutes for possible action. Can I have a motion?
Stavros Anthony, move for approval.
In a second?
Second, Andy.
All right. Do we have any objections? All right, hearing none, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any against? Hearing none, motion passes. We will close agenda item number 5 and move on to the consent agenda. Items number 6 through number, so we are going to say through number 15. Is that correct?
Yes,
And 18.
and 18.
So, and 18 minus agenda number 16 to 17. We will take this. Is there any board members wishing to take any of these items separate, or will we take them? Are you good with that? Steve?
All good. I'll make a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second, Stavros Anthony.
Any concerns? Hearing none, we have a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion passes. We'll close the consent agenda. Move on to section 3, item number 19, executive session. Ms. Larkin, do we have a presentation?
We do not. It's always good to say we do not need to hear from legal this month.
All right, so no need for action. We will close agenda item number 19 and move on to number 20, public comment. Second opportunity for public comment. If you have a comment, please limit it to 3 minutes. We will address there at Carson City first.
I do want to state, we do have people here in Carson City to speak. We did receive 2 public comments that you did receive in your board packets already. So anyone want to coming up here?
Are we ready?
You are ready.
My name is Brett Tibbetts. I'm from Cave Rock. I'm here today to oppose the NDOT's continued desire to limit the lanes at Highway 50. There's a very simple solution here, and that is install more traffic lights and increase patrol. We currently have no patrol. So I'm also here today to call out NDOT's deception to the community and NDOT's disagreement, disregard of the community. I have a quick history here. In 2017, NDOT came to the community, held a meeting at Zephyr Cove School. They expected a small crowd. Over 200 people showed up, passionately against this project. NDOT went away for 5 years, came back last year, 2022, 2023. They didn't hold any public meetings. They obfuscated the public comment by having these things where you go around a room and put Post-it notes. And so they can say whatever public comment is. There's no way to check them. In fall of 2022, a group of us went to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Tedford was there for his annual report. He wouldn't discuss Highway 50. He said he promised he would come back before he did anything. He has not come back to Douglas County since that time. In December 22, 30 of us appeared at this meeting, and Governor Sisolak nicely deferred it to the new administration. In January 2023, we were told everything is on hold and nothing will happen. Then we sent an email to NDOT inquiring about what their plans were because we were worried they were going to obfuscate again. On April 6th, Sandra Rosenberg wrote to us with a copy to Darren Tedford and Tracy Larkin Thomason. Excuse me. NDOT does have a preservation project planned for this stretch of road that will mill off the old pavement surface and place a new surface. It will also repair and improve drainage, blah, blah, blah. Any change to the striping would not be incorporated until later after additional public engagement. There has been no public engagement. Upcoming outreach public engagement this spring will likely include extensive surveys as well as more traditional public meetings. We want to ensure we are hearing from all of the residents and businesses. Any decisions on a change to striping, again without change to the width of the pavement, will not occur until after those outreach efforts. I'm sorry, a demonstration project is a change. Then on June 21st, Mr. Tedford had his underling, Melissa Clement, send an email to Douglas County that they were doing this plan. He did not have the courtesy to do it himself after he promised to come back.
Mr. Tibbetts?
Yes.
Mr. Tibbetts, your time is concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, Governor and members of the board, I am Robert Byron, that's B-Y-R-E-N, from Hidden Woods, and have come to voice my opposition to NDOT's decision to restrict traffic lanes on US 50. I spoke to this board in January regarding the effect of the Corridor Management Plan, or road diet, on air pollution and Tahoe Lake clarity. More recently, I've tried to analyze the increase in transit times by applying Greenshield's traffic flow models to open data published by the NHTSA. This was frustrated because US 50 does not fall within any of the classic road types, since it sometimes exhibits the characteristics of a major highway, at other times an arterial road, for residents and visitors, a local street with numerous curb breaks, and finally, an alpine mountain road subject to closures, lane narrowing, and snow removal operations in the winter, and road and infrastructure repair in the summer. Last year, I submitted public Nevada Public Records Act request to NDOT, TRPA, and Douglas County, specifically requesting peak traffic flow data on the US 50 East Shore corridor between Glenbrook and Zephyr Cove, with emphasis on holiday periods. I received responses from TARPA and NDOT, both providing the same spreadsheet. This traffic flow analysis presents average, median, and 95th percentile traffic speeds and travel times in 2021 for the major holiday periods and the Caldor fire evacuation. By the way, this analysis postdates the work by Wood Rogers upon which the CMP was originally based. Prior to the 2021 study, the only data I could find was a TRPA study that presented annual averages of daily traffic volume from 2009 to 2016. The point I'd like to make is that the traffic flow studies upon which the study team relied in developing and promulgating the CMP are averages and do not capture the real congestion problems that residents and visitors face under peak flow conditions. This can only be established through comprehensive collection of peak traffic volume, speed, and transit time data. NDOT is now proposing to shut down 2 lanes of traffic in August, as we've been talking about. According to Melissa Chandler, and I quote, "The demonstration period will allow NDOT to gather important data points such as average speeds, crash rates, and performance of merge-diverge points." Again, that word average. In my view, this is a major oversight and downplays the real issue along the corridor, which is congestion during rush hours and over weekends and holidays during the high seasons. Also, TRPA and NDOT have conveniently chosen dates that do not straddle the major summer holidays and have chosen a section of US 50 that does not include the persistent traffic jam due to tourists entering the Zephyr Cove Resort from the north, essentially eliminating 1 lane of traffic, which NDOT wants to do permanently. I would therefore ask that the Transportation Board direct NDOT and TRPA to end this madness, abandon the August demonstration, and leave the US 50 East Shore corridor as a proper 4-lane thoroughfare. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byron.
Good morning, Governor and Board. My name is Sydney Morrow, and I'm a resident of Glenbrook, Nevada. I'm here today to give public comment on the ongoing actions that NDOT is taking on the east shore of Lake Tahoe. Today, as I'm standing here, you have crews near Zephyr Cove starting the Warrior Way project that you just heard about. This is a terrific project that's years behind scheduled implementation. What you didn't hear today is that the construction necessitates intermittent weekday lane closures on US 50 near Warrior Way. You also today have heard about this temporary demonstration project. What Mr. Tedford did not share with you is that this just happens to be located about a half a mile from the active construction work that you're doing at Zephyr Cove. The intention is to really and truly restrict traffic on about 2 miles of US Highway 50. And if it's not clear, let me explain that Ms. Chandler and Mr. Tedford intend to run a study to collect traffic data on a reconfigured segment of a major US highway that's now hampered by concurrent road construction a half a mile from her study site. I'm not sure what NDOT is thinking here, but as a research scientist, I'm 100% sure that your temporary demonstration project will demonstrate nothing. You've got too much going on in that area right now, and it won't work. In addition, we are now in fire season in the Sierra. On August 14th of 2021, the Caldor fire broke out. On August 30th, the chaotic evacuation of South Lake Tahoe began on US 50. Ladies and gentlemen, since you guys seem absolutely determined to reduce the operational capacity along 2 miles of the road this summer, let me assure you what my plans are. If a wildfire breaks out this summer and your temporary demonstration project results in added risk to my family, my neighbors, and my colleagues, I'm going to hold each one of you responsible. You have been advised by the East Shore community members over and over again about the evacuation risk you pose to us, yet you just keep on as if we didn't exist. Webster defines the word negligent to mean failure to take proper care in the performance of duty. I'm pretty sure that word will be appropriately applied to adding a lane reduction study to a construction corridor at the height of the fire season on the only evacuation route for the east side of Lake Tahoe. You know, Ms. Thompson and Ms. Rosenberg, you promised community outreach. I guess you're getting it this morning because you sure didn't try any other way. You guys ran a statewide study back in 2016 asking residents of this state what they wanted out of their highways. Governor, do you know what the number one answer was? Operational efficiency. Imagine that Nevada taxpaying citizens would want to be able to move on the roads that you build. Do you know how many Nevada citizens want a bike path? 16%. I'm asking the board one more time to please listen to the people in this state that stick a gas nozzle in their tank about once a week and pay some of the most onerous gasoline taxes in this country. Please stop this stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Morrow.
My name is Paul Felton, and I reside in Glenbrook, Nevada. I've twice before addressed this board on the topic of the amusingly titled Highway 50 Corridor Road Diet. I speak not only as an affected resident, but as someone who has traveled the 50 corridor for decades during all seasons. I'm not here because of any outreach on the part of NDOT. We found out about it on our own, and so the outreach that Mr. Tedford suggests did not happen for any of us from Glenbrook. You, the board of NDOT, have heard the vociferous opposition from so many affected and potentially afflicted residents of the corridor, and I regret again having to stand and deliver what should be obvious to everybody. I'll first summarize why the campaign to shrink the corridor remains such a bad idea. In summary, traffic is only projected to increase, as it has for decades, along the subject corridor, and NDOT wants to shrink the corridor. It doesn't make sense. The data, case studies, and road shrinkages that NDOT has cited in support of its campaign are almost all inapplicable to Highway 50. The claim that this road shrinkage will reduce travel time by only 2 minutes from the Spooner Summit to State Line is, to put it most politely, not credible. Highway 50 is defined as a principal arterial, reducing the width of lanes, reducing the number of lanes, constricting traffic in multiple locations, enforcing multiple merging traffic patterns will harm the interests of residents, commuters, business people, truckers, and public safety personnel. Operation in winter will be horrible. Imagine losing a lane when during snow season, the weather regularly takes us down from 2 to 1 to begin with, and you want to remove the second lane. What do you think is going to happen? So congestion will increase, service levels will decline, start-stop conflicts amongst drivers will increase, commercial trucks will be challenged by narrower waylets, emissions will increase, and evacuation in event of emergency will be impaired. Then there is the, and I have to say respectfully but truthfully, underhanded nature of NDOT's latest tactic to insinuate a toehold for the corridor shrinkage under the euphemistic label of temporary demonstration project. For a one-month experiment along a 1-mile segment that will lead to a permanent reduction of service along a 20-mile corridor with a single funnel when NDOT in truth seeks 5 choke points. This is why we're back, again, demonstrating our opposition and, dare I say, our increasing frustration about this sneaky attempt to get a demonstration locked in without notifying so many of the affected and to be afflicted residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felton.
Good morning. For the record, Beth Wallace. I'm a 10-year resident of Zephyr Heights, and I'm here also in opposition to Highway 50 lane reduction plans. First off, after delaying your plans last December to make changes to our 13-mile stretch, you promised that you would return first to the Douglas County Board of Commissioners and, most importantly, to us as residents regarding lane reductions. Those promises were not honored. You've heard it from tons of people today. We all found out 10 days ago about this temporary project. I heard it through the media, not because you tried to correspond with me or reach out to our residents. Most of us speaking here today have participated in every venue that you've provided for public comment. And as Mr. Tibbetts pointed out, there have been several years of that. An overwhelming majority of us have expressed over and over how opposed we are to lane reduction. And as he pointed out, last year we got to put Post-it notes. I've 3 times asked Melissa Chandler for a compilation of those comments and have been told they are not available until the project is over. Our goal is the same. Everyone here, our goal is the same as yours. We want to improve safety, but so few of us embrace what you continue to propose, those lane reductions. We want turn lanes. We want lights if needed, roundabouts, an elimination of on-road parking, an off-road bike and walk path like that on Highway 28, decreased speed limits, signs illuminating our current speed, and increased law enforcement presence. Not reducing the lanes, which compromises our travel as residents, commuters, first responders, and access to a quick evacuation. I'm sure that all of you saw the pictures of our stretch along the 4th of July and all the trash that was picked up. Traffic has not only increased on the holidays, but all year long. And I have lived in several growing communities in my long life. I've commuted in several growing communities. Not once have I ever heard a local planning commission or a transportation agency reduce lanes to deal with increased traffic. Please continue to work with these residents, your constituents, to help solve this problem.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace.
Hello, my name is Bill Lertz. I live in Glenbrook, and I happen to be a Highway 50 expert. Along with all these other people, we have a collection of experts talking to you now about Highway 50 and how it really works. I've lived along Highway 50 for 50 years from Zephyr Heights to Glenbrook, and we know how Highway 50 works. Yes, it has problems, and it has great beauty, and we know how it works in bad weather. We know how it works in good weather. My 3 children learned how to drive on Highway 50. I cringed at it. I, briefed them on how to do it safely. So we are all, look at these people. These are people who actually live here and use Highway 50 under all conditions. And I'm telling you, they're universally saying they're not opposed to safety. What they are opposed to is a bad decision or a bad plan. So, next thing, the proposed temporary test of Highway 50 is a waste of time. The test has already been done. In June of this year, there was a Rock Tahoe Marathon, and they shut down the southbound lane of Highway 50 all the way from Glenbrook or Spooner Summit all the way to State Line. One lane shut down, the southbound lane only. I have a 1 minute and 30-second video. I was returning from Round Hill, and this is early in the morning, and it wasn't peak travel season either. I have a 1 minute and 30-second video that will supply all the information you need about having your test. There were no high-speed crashes. What happened was there was just bumper-to-bumper traffic moving along at 5 miles an hour. Where there weren't turn lanes, people were trapped and unable to turn left if you're turning northbound. People were generally in a good mood because it was a celebration and a marathon and everything. But I can tell you in July and August, people won't be in a good mood when they're trying to get through and navigate the lane closures in both spaces. You shut down one lane for 1 mile, you're going to have a mini test, and maybe it'll produce some data or some not. But all I'm asking is that you take the time to review this 1 minute and 30-second video that I shot while traveling northbound and looking at the southbound traffic, and try and make some conclusions or some analysis or look at the data from that 1 minute and 30 seconds, analyze it, and come back to us and say, here's what we think of what you shot, and the test isn't necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lertz.
My name is Marlo Quillen. I live in Zephyr Cove, drive the Highway 50 section multiple times a day, own a business in State Line, and another test, as everyone's saying, there's constant test of this. There was a hazmat crew this Thursday repairing a drain that was going into the lake between Kingsbury Grade and Elks Point, about a mile from this proposed test. It took 45 minutes to get through the 1 mile section. It backed up traffic all the way through State Line into California, and it lasted for about 4 hours when they tried to take the lane down to a single lane. So I have 3 questions. If this is being done to primarily reduce accidents, why is there no patrol? The last 2 weeks have been 2 of the busiest weeks on record for summer up there. And I think I've seen a patrol car one time parked closer to the sheriff's station down at Elks Point. No patrols parked in this area of the curve that is the biggest problem. Second question is, why are there not more signs? Why don't we have more than one flashing sign? And why don't we have multiple patrol units instead of ticketing people down at Zephyr Cove where they're parked illegally on a street? Why aren't people really patrolling the area where the accidents are happening? Does anybody recall the previous generation fighting very hard to make it a 4-lane? The previous generation is still alive, and although they're not here, they're in their 80s, most of them. They remember a time when that was 2 lanes, and they fought so hard with far less traffic to make this a 4-lane section. Last question, how many people making these decisions at NDOT actually live, drive, and work that section every day? It really would cripple us as a community, and we do. We have our children going to school. We have the elementary school and the high school right in those sections. So it affects us as a community that do that drive consistently, and it affects tourism. For our business, I know it'll affect tourists because they won't want to come to Lake Tahoe and sit in a bottleneck every single holiday. So basically, 1 lane for tourists is needed that want to sightsee, which is huge for Lake Tahoe. They want to drive 30 miles an hour, and then 1 lane is necessary for the more aggressive drivers, and then those of us that fit in between can kind of always move around these people. But in no way can this go down to 4 lane, down to 3 lanes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quillen.
Good morning, Governor and Board. My name is Kirk Ledbetter, and I have some concerns, more concerns, about this NDOT US Highway 50 Corridor Management Plan. And I'm going to take you back a few months. We're all very familiar with the snow conditions that we had, but specifically regarding snow removal operations and impacts if the lanes are reduced. When the plows move the snow from the center to the right of the highway, many times berms are created either across driveways or side streets. And this winter was nice and cold and consistent, and those berms hardened. And so we had a lot of ice build up on the sides of the roads. Does the NDOT US 50 East Shore Corridor Management Plan address the snow removal operations adequately? Winter weather places highway in a challenging position. I don't understand how the plow teams will move the snow to the right if the sides are changed. And so many visitors and supply trucks and locals rely on this highway to move around. We just experienced a heavy winter. This is my opportunity to return and speak with you today. And I want to make sure that we don't forget that this was an example of back-to-back patterns of snowfall. And we need to consider that in this corridor plan. I understand the need to balance the multiple factors to keep the US 50 open and request that you ask the planners and make sure they've reviewed this snow removal plan correctly. To have Nevada plowing like our operators to the south would just create a mess. And anytime you go into the California, when you cross that line, you'll know what I mean. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter.
Hello, my name is Peter Spencer. I'm a Zephyr Heights resident. I showed up like this to prove a point. I'm a road cyclist. I love riding, but I do not support the proposal. The purpose of reducing, thank you, I know everybody's worried. If the purpose of reducing 50 is to reduce crashes, cyclist and car interactions, there are better proposals. 1, enact the Cadillac plan proposed by TRPA and NDOT's first study plan for pedestrian underpass and additional parking at Zephyr Cove Resort. Excuse me. Enforce speed limits along 50. I see many people doing 60 or more in a 45 zone. And also enforce no parking along 50. 3, this is specific to Zephyr Heights, and this is something that has been asked for by residents. We have on Martin Drive, it's a very sharp corner. There are signs that say 30 miles an hour, please be advised. And we've asked for something that says turning vehicle, a flashing light that comes up that says turning vehicle head. Something simple like that. If cyclist concern is, if the safety is actually a concern, we can put in a dedicated bike path like we have around many other portions of the lake. Inclined to Sand Harbor, it is a dedicated bike path. It is not a bike lane. Different things. I believe the issue here is bad behavior. It's not penalized with parking and speeding. These changes will not enforce good behavior, but continue to allow people to do what they want and put us all at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Good morning.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Ledbetter, and I have 4 properties on Highway 50. And hello, Governor. I voted for you, by the way. I just want to let you know that. So please listen to me. We have 4 properties on Highway 50. We own 1210, 1218, 1220, and 1193, which sit directly across from each other. I have seen more than my share of accidents and bad behavior and poor plowing and everything else that everybody else has been talking about here today. And I want to reiterate everything that has already been said by these wonderful community members and everything that is going to be said after me. And I'm here not only to represent myself, but my 9 employees that travel Highway 50 from Carson City and Gardnerville 5 days, if not 6, every day a year. Through terrible weather, great weather, tourist season, slow season, you name it, but all suffer the same problems of overcrowded roads, first of all, and the thought of making them smaller makes them very, very frightened to drive up and down our roads. How are we going to get people to work in Lake Tahoe if we can't afford them a safe way to get there? Let's see, the reduction of lanes will impact the safety of their travel out of the basin, in and out of the basin, and we are beholden to this highway for access and receipt of goods, services, and employees. I pay taxes in this community, yet I feel we are not being heard. I've been here 3-4 times already, and I don't think you guys even know who I am. I feel our NDOT has just completely ignored everything we've had to say. I've been to the talk points and have been told that they've talked to all my neighbors and everybody likes this plan. I don't see anybody here that's telling you they like this plan. So I don't really think you're listening to us. So who are we supposed to talk to? Is it NDOT, TRPA? What other public agencies are we supposed to be talking with? Because I don't know who's really behind this. Do we want bike lanes? Do we want a 4-lane road? Do we want a 2-lane road? Please let me know what you're really thinking because I'm confused. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Governor, board members. Ellie Waller, Carson Valley, Jacks Valley Road commuter on Highway 50. Listening tours, as you have heard, are a poor substitute for real Q&A. Our comments should be published now. Your discussions with the fire and sheriff, etc., should be published now so we know, so the broader communities know what's out there from the public. I want to shout out to the Assistant County Manager, Morgan of Douglas County. Douglas County believes that these actions are inconsistent with the charter, which states public outreach is a vital component to the corridor management plan. I am asking NDOT to delay this decision until such time that our residents have an opportunity to weigh in on your proposed action. Please consider this a conflict be resolved under the charter document signed by Douglas County on January 20th, 2022. There is another project that is going to also come forward that I'm hoping NDOT will be having discussions with Douglas County residents. It's called the Spooner Mobility Center, located near the intersection of State Route 28 and US 50. Construct a transit mobility hub with 250 parking spaces, restrooms, an invasive species inspection boat station, and a half-mile of multi-use path and pedestrian crossing. Talk about conflict with other construction projects. Also in the future in the corridor management plan is a proposed roundabout at that very section as well. I also want to remind you, courtesy of the Tahoe Fund nonprofit, Douglas County has a sawmill and logging trucks now graze Highway 50 in Tahoe down to Carson City for further conflict, and that logging mill is going to be there for many, many years. I hope you are listening to the public as well as the business owners. This is a very critical juncture in the future of what the East Shore corridor is going to look like. Also, the intersection of 28 heading to Incline with this roundabout, and also a recently opened state park amphitheater at Spooner Lake. So more tourists, more residents, more hikers, more bikers in the same location. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waller.
Thank you for the opportunity to address this group. My name is Diane Felton, and I reside in Glenbrook. These proposed projects, both the Warrior Road project and the demonstration project, and let's just call it what it is. A road diet, no, it's a bottleneck. And it runs between my house and the acquisition of vital services, like food, like gasoline. These are things that we use every single day. We will be impacted by this every single day. And I feel that the Warrior Road addition of the stoplight is a very good one for your tax-paying constituents. That takes care of children and parents picking up children, and I believe in that. But the road diet, or the bottleneck is something that is taking care of, I feel, transient services and not resident services. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Felton.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you some of my views as a 12-year resident of the East Shore. What I see as NDOT and RPA.
Ma'am, can you identify yourself?
Oh, sorry, I'm Dana Tibbetts. What
Thank you.
NDOT and TRPA are doing here under the guise of safety and sustainability is reckless, deceptive, and incoherent. Let's spend $50 million of taxpayer funds to strip away 2 of 4 lanes on the single most important evacuation route for South and East Shore residents. No self-respecting traffic engineer would advocate eliminating 2 lanes of roadway as a rational way to reduce traffic volume and enhance safety in a high-traffic community. And what about the trial run roundabout or lane elimination at Tamarla Bay? Does anyone actually believe this project will disappear in 30 days? And what fake statistics will be trotted out based on this demonstration project to justify another 15 miles of political malfeasance in transportation modeling? What's most troubling about all this is the attitude of public officials who are willing to betray the public trust and lie to us while doing so in order to build their vision of our future behind closed doors. The contempt is disturbing. They really don't care what we, as residents and taxpayers at the lake, think about the escalating stream of trophy projects popping up with very little public comment or scrutiny, let alone appropriate environmental impact studies. In my opinion, this is a Trojan horse. If NDOT and TRPA get away with their version of the Highway 50 project, there's no stopping the schemes imposed on our lake communities, more incoherent development plans, whether we like it or not. We have to stand firm. If this NDOT boondoggle prevails, we will have a very strong lawsuit based quite simply on the demolition of the most important evacuation corridor for the Greater Lake community, and we will win. We must stay engaged. We must beware of the bells and whistles given to get us to acquiesce to something that is inherently bad for us and for the lake. We must reject small compromises, and we must watch out for ideologies masquerading as good sense.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbetts.
Good morning. My name is Guy Moss. I'm a 62-year resident of Zephyr Heights subdivision in the Lake Tahoe Basin. I spent many years at Zephyr Cove Beach prior to that. I was in the 3rd graduating class of George Whittle High School. 1963 is when they widened that road, and we were so happy to see that. The traffic conditions in 1963 warranted widening that road. It's ridiculous to even talk about narrowing this road. It's a major highway through the state and through our community and area. And I am a 34-year veteran from the Tahoe Douglas Fire Protection District. And that's the fire district that works that area from top of Spooner, top of Kingsbury to State Line. Those 100 accidents that they say that happen in that area each year, about a third of those happen in Zephyr Cove due to the parking on the highway, the people that are under the influence trying to get into their cars and walking down the middle of the roads. Stop the parking on the highway and clean up Zephyr Cove. You can't do it. I'm a bicycle person. I'm not physically able to ride them much anymore, but I do still own 3 of them. I have no problems with people with bicycles. I think it's a wonderful thing, but they have no business on Highway 50 in between Glenbrook and State Line, period. I've been to more than 100 accidents personally to pick up these poor people that are riding down the highway, and bicycles are no match for cars. They're not even a match for gravel on the pavement. They go down quickly, and I've picked up people that have been lost their lives and been maimed for life on that roadway. And why they would even consider riding out there is beyond me. But I have seen a lot of things that most people don't see. And I echo everything that's been said here today. Please consider the people that live there, the people that own property, the people that drive back and forth between Carson City, State Line, Nevada. In the last 2 weeks, not including the holiday weekend, I've spent 3 different times at the entrance of Lakeview Drive at Marla Bay, over 10 minutes to get out into the normal traffic flow safely. And I'm not a patient person. I will pull out when I get a chance. 10 minutes, and I was the guy in the front of the line waiting. Please do not restrict our mobility and our roadways. There's other ways to deal with the bike traffic. And basically, as far as I understand, from the background around, this is TRPA pushing bicycle and bicycle lanes. They do not belong in the highway in any form. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moss.
Hi, my name is Robert Felton. I'm a resident of Glenbrook, Nevada. Governor and board members, thank you for the chance to speak today. NDOT representatives, we already did this twice. I don't understand why you're not recognizing that the community's against this. This is a bad plan. It's created nothing but opposition. You haven't had a lineup of people that are excited about it. And yet we have to come back and defend ourselves. You tried to sneak around us, which is unacceptable. The irony is in the same meeting we just sat through, you presented a plan in Las Vegas for lane expansion and efficiency. So you know how it works. You're just not recognizing that you want to do it here. Why do we continue to come back here? 2 board members expressed disinterest or possible opposition. You have no published metrics of success or failure for this test. None. You continue to try to circumvent the people who actually live there and drive there every day. This is disorganized, dishonest, and unbelievably unpopular. Stop. Yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Felton.
Governor, board, my name is Andy Huckbody. I'm a resident in Lake Ridge, and I live right above the north side of Dead Man's Curve. So I see the people entering that going westbound, but most of the accidents are coming eastbound. They go across the lane. I oppose the narrowing of 50. 50 is needs to be as wide as possible for safety. Because of snow, because of the traffic, we need to keep it wide. I can't understand if in fact part of the demonstration is to collect data. NDOT should be collecting data before they make a recommendation on speed limit, volume of traffic. All that needs to be published to make an actual recommendation. We see what the examples of narrowing Highway 50 every day. Last week, one of the people spoke about the storm sewer cleanout between Kale and Elks Point Road. And I have a 14-minute video that I could send you of from the event center. I thought I was going to outsmart everyone because I went around Heavenly and came out on the event center. But from the event center to Elks Point Road was a 14-minute trip. It was backed up past Heavenly Village going eastbound. So we see that. We see that when we get the snow, when 80 gets closed, 50 is open, all the trucks come down to try to get across the Sierras on Highway 50. Every time you do maintenance, we'll see it now with the construction at Warrior Way. you're narrowing the lane down to do that construction. We'll see how much that backs up the traffic. So there's several examples of the backups or the gridlock that happens when you narrow down the lanes. I think there should be more focused on the safety and slowing the traffic down in two primary areas, Presbyterian Curve and Dead Man's Curve. Cars go through there at 50, 60 miles an hour. They need to be slowed down. We need radar signs flashing your speed limit, and we need enforcement. And if you have the data that would point the enforcement personnel where to go and at least park and slow people down. So we need that to happen. And again, I oppose the narrowing of any lanes on 50. Thank you.
Sir, can you spell your name for the record? Sir?
Yes, Huckbody.
Thank you.
Good morning, Janine Nair for the record. It's November Yankee Romeo Echo. First, many great comments up here. I want to just support all the other folks that have talked, but a couple of additional things that have popped up. First, the fact that this demonstration plan has just in the last week been discussed with fire and sheriff's office is indicative that you're not seeking input, you're seeking to placate when you already have a plan in mind. I think that's tremendously problematic. To add to Ellie Waller's comments, first of all, there are so many organizations all feeding off the public trough and private money up at the lake, all coming up with great plans, beautiful, beautiful shiny brochures, that type of thing. But, U.S. Forest Service has an RFP on the street right now to expand Zephyr Cove Resort. I don't know if that's being coordinated or, how that works, but again, it's to increase capacity for tourists at the lake, not to help the efficient transportation. There's been a lot of technical experts that have talked here, people that are scientists or have engineering backgrounds. I'd just like to add, after 37 years in the aerospace industry, we always took a system engineering approach to everything. We never made decisions without doing modeling and simulation of the impacts. I don't believe NDOT has a high fidelity model, a comprehensive model of that corridor at all. I've asked Melissa Chandler if there's information. I suggested that maybe they talk to UNR. I contacted the Transportation Engineering Department at UNR, Dr. Park and Dr. Tian. They're very interested in participating, but no one's ever reached out to them to see if there's a way to get students involved in creating a model. Just some ideas. The other thing, there have been some comments, not here today, but comments that perhaps if transportation is more difficult, even the locals will reduce the number of trips. And I don't know if you guys know, we don't get our mail delivered to our houses. We have to be on the road every day to check our mail. So reducing trips by locals is not necessarily an answer or any type of a panacea that could be considered either. Anyway, that's the end of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Comptroller. I guess you know me, I'm Elizabeth Learnhardt. I've been here many times, and I would like to address the NDOT Highway 50 CMP plan. Today, I'm reminding you that at the January 9th meeting, when Janet Murphy and I brought our concerns regarding the Highway 50 East Shore plan to this newly elected leadership. Despite the promise from Governor Lombardo, NDOT's Melissa Chandler went ahead and scheduled the trial for a two-lane highway and a suicide lane in the middle for this month. This was against the protest from Douglas County Board of Commissioners. As much as I'm for a trial phase, it needs to be during the most representative time of highway traffic, such as holidays and winter weather, and not commingled with constructions. NDOT's reason for the plan is safety. That's what their Overton window showed when they did the outreach last year. That was what was sticking with the population. But we all know it is TRPA and their state line to state line bike plan that they are pushing. Their own webpage contradicts all of the data points that were made here today. Traffic accidents between 2016 and 20 between Spooner Summit and State Line on an average were 105 for each year, 31 in raw numbers, 30% injury accidents during that time, and 56% occurred in winter. Traffic accidents in Douglas County during that time were 594, which makes this a 17.7% for this particular road. Douglas County has 2.1% of the state crashes. It ranks number 7 in the state despite being the third most populous county. So all these numbers clearly point that this is not a hotspot in the whole state. Given these facts that show clearly average accidents rates, the remedy reduction of highway lane is dramatically opposed to safety. The National Highway Safety Crash Data, Chapter 2, Table 32, shows that more lanes are clearly safer than 1 or 2 lanes. In numbers, 9 times less fatalities occurred in 4 lanes than in 2 lanes. This holds true for all types of crashes. NDOT's own data from Kimley Horn shows that number 1 cause of traffic fatalities is impairment. Number 2 is lane departure, and number 3 are intersection. Speed is only number 4. If the true goal is traffic safety, these should be addressed in the order of importance, and lane reductions doesn't mitigate them. Road diets like the NDOT proposal are not indicated for rural arterial roads, particularly when evacuating fire or snow. Look around. This is your outreach. Do you need any more input from the community? I'm welcoming you to come to Zephyr Cove, to the community center there at Kale Drive, and we will discuss it further with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Learnhardt.
You're welcome.
Yes, my name is David Thompson. I'm a resident of Glenbrook. We've been there for 30 years, first as a vacation residence and for the last 6 years permanently. When I leave Glenbrook, I have to stomp on the gas to get out of that because there's so much traffic there, whether I'm going right or more dangerously left to Carson City, which we go to often. Last fall, NDOT made a presentation at Glenbrook, billed as a 15-minute presentation with Q&A afterwards. They came down there and talked for an hour and hurriedly left before entertaining any Q&A. Check the box, discussion with Glenbrook people. That never happened. That was a presentation. We were all shocked by that meeting. And it was just a check the box thing for them. With 1 lane, there will be, at certain times a day, there will be a never-ending line of traffic that you could never get onto out of Glenbrook. At certain times a day, certain months, there'll be people going by there that you couldn't enter even if you took a right turn, which is easy, and probably never get on a left turn. So I've lived in Nevada since 1966. I love this state. I love Northern Nevada. I love the people of Northern Nevada. I think we're well represented, and I think our public servants are going to make the right decision on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Where'd it go? Good morning, Governor, Board, friends, neighbors. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Adriana Hartley. I'm a homeowner on Hidden Woods Drive off Highway 50 by Cave Rock. I just want to ask you, and I want to first acknowledge Mr. Esquaga, is that how you say your name? Thank you for voicing your opinion when the discussion came up on Highway 50 that there is some concern about the proposal by NDOT. And I'd like to just ask you guys to consider possible change, as you're considering the possible changes to Highway 50, I'd like you to consider this question: what is the real problem on Highway 50? What needs to be solved today? And how we consider the best options before moving forward? And where is the raw data and rates of accidents? I really want you to think about that. We hear scary statistics on
accidents, but where's the raw data compared to the many of cars that are coming through? The other thing is, like, there was a meeting of supposedly 5 years ago where they said further study was to be done before taking action. I don't think that study has happened yet. And why has NDOT decided to move forward with one possible solution without discussion and implementing other options, which there are plenty, as we've heard? How is that decision made? This feels irresponsible to me and makes me wonder what's the true motivation in making this decision. And I ask the board to discuss this amongst yourselves before deciding to move forward with anything that you decide. There was no discussion before deciding to restripe as a temporary solution, and the way it was presented today was we're going to do this temporarily and then we're going to make it permanent. That's what I heard. I don't know if I heard it correctly. And you said you discussed this with Douglas County last week. Does that give Douglas County enough time to discuss it with their constituents? I think not. I don't think that's fair. And how would you socialize, how can they socialize that with us? And then the fears for me as a new homeowner, when we bought our house, the fire was coming through and there were 4 lanes of traffic to get us out. And we bought our house and then had to leave because of the fire and the smoke. And we felt safe being able to move through. We've been stuck on Highway 50 when the snow came through for several hours, not being able to get to our home when we went down the hill to Costco to get groceries. We couldn't get home and stuck there for hours. And then the accidents, I've been stuck with an accident on Highway 50 where it's just shut down. You can't move. And people are then going onto oncoming traffic to get around the accident. And NDOT's there trying to take care of us and we can't move around it. I'm afraid of that. So Governor and Board, I ask that you postpone making any changes to the Highway 50 without first doing your due diligence to make any changes with and considering other options. There's several options to consider that might take care of whatever the root problem is. And it sounds like there's some concerns on what the root problem really is. So I ask that you do some further research before you move forward, and I'm against the restriping plan moving forward without further discussion. Thank you for your time, and thank you for working with us as a community.
Thank you, Ms. Hartley.
Thank you, Governor Lombardo and fellow distinguished directors of NDOT. For the record, my name is Janet Murphy. I am 3rd generation. I'm also the administrator of Tahoe Douglas Utility District, and I stand here before you once again on the same issue. And I think a couple of you directors had approached me when I had come up with the alternative. And if you look in the record, I have said in the past, and Director Squagas, we're sitting right here, can contest to this, that I said, and I quote, if you try any options, try the alternative that Tahoe Douglas District has come up with their certified licensed engineers, because the root problem that they continue to keep saying is safety, correct? Utility districts, we're all about safety. And that is correct. And it's about speed. And I sit here in front of you again, and I've spoken with Mr. Tedford, who's second in command, I believe, here at NDOT. We've had great conversations and have said, what's another option? How do you slow traffic down? You don't reduce the lanes. You don't eliminate them. What you do is you make them smaller, less width. That reduces speed. It's a known fact. I did my research with our engineers in Washington, D.C., and they all agreed. Now for accidents and head-on collisions, what do? You put in a center lane. That reduces also your accidents. So there is an option that is out there that will meet NDOT's requirements as far as reducing and increasing the safetiness that needs to be done on Highway 50. So look at the alternative and try the alternative first. That's not eliminating any lanes. It's narrowing the lanes with a center lane. That will accomplish what you're trying to do. Let's try that first. That's what I said before, because I truly believe, and I'll quote it again, that if you try any alternative, I believe you will get back the information as, oh, it works, when most likely it doesn't. And I truly believe that. I also want to let you know that I had a special meeting, because I am on the fire board of Tahoe Fire Protection District, with our chief and with our sheriff, Mr. Coverly. Both of them have quoted that they would prefer and would rather have 4 lanes. I believe, if you think about if you have an accident, 4 lanes is far better to handle anything. Also, I went to a township meeting, and this is very critical. Senator Settlemyre was there, and he is on record also, keep 4 lanes. Also, the chair of the commission of Douglas County is also on record at the township meeting at the senior center stating keep the 4 lanes. He also made the comment that the rest of the board is in the same feeling. Listen to your stakeholders. Stakeholders are these people right here. This is your outreach right here today. Are you listening? That's who you need to listen to, is your people that pay the taxes. In your own report, who you hired, Wood Rogers, states the most people that travel are the people that live there. Well, here they are. They're talking to you. They're paying their taxes. Your roads are paid by gas
Murphy.
tax. Yes, sir.
Ms. Murphy, your
Yes,
time's
sir.
concluded. Thank you.
I thought they yield back their time to me. But let's take the ego out of it. And let me tell you, you know what ego stands for? Edge God out. And let's not defecate God's environment, all right? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Governor, board members. Thank you for a moment of your time. I won't take 3 minutes. My name is Dennis Davenport. I live in Zephyr Heights. That's that hill on your slide, right at the top of the picture on the high side of the highway. Down below us, I think there may be 100 homes or so up there. Down below us, there's a beautiful condo project, Pine Wild, and then Marla Bay, another neighborhood there. They all come onto Highway 50 at the same time, in the same place. I have to say thanks for all the intelligent comments that we got from folks here. I want to bring a couple of things. My 90-year-old dad said, try to be part of the solution, Dennis. And one of the things I think we could do regarding the study is maybe some of these. This is a $300 camera that uploads everything at night to the cloud after it takes pictures. But spend the money instead of restriping the road. Buy some of these and look and see what's really happening there. Evaluate it. You'll see it. We had our own study a few days ago, last week. It was mentioned a few minutes ago where the traffic was stopped at Elks Point Road, backed up all the way through South Lake Tahoe. You could see it on this without restriping the road, and then you can put these to use somewhere else after you're done. The other thing is, on my way out of my neighborhood, thanks, on my way out of my neighborhood this morning, I came down a beautiful 33-minute drive to get here, down beautiful Highway 50, and I passed miles of Forest Service land. Guy Moss said, the bicycles don't have any place on the road. We've got lots of trails that are already off the road. The problem with this idea is we tried to do it within the constraints of the right-of-way of Highway 50. That doesn't leave room for doing anything but narrowing the road and putting the bike lanes. We need the bike lanes. That would be great. I wish there was somebody here from the Forest Service to say, hey, we got land. You know, we could do it. We have trails. We use that land. Miles of it. But I know NDOT doesn't have jurisdiction over that, but we have to have you guys talking to the people who have the land. It was a good idea not to spend the money to try to buy private land along the route, because that's some of the most expensive land on the planet. Don't do that. Get it from the Forest Service. We already own part of that, right? Let's do it that way. Get the trails up there. But I've exceeded the amount of time I wanted to take. You can tell I'm very passionate about it. Unintended consequences, though. Watch out. Round Hill has got people parked on the wrong side of the highway now, going across Highway 50 to get to the park. The Forest Service needs to give them back some space to park. They just need to. And we in Zephyr Heights, we may be standing out in the middle of Highway 50 trying to stop to get out, because I think I was 4 cars behind Guy Moss when he was in it for 10 minutes. And that's before we close it down. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport.
Governor, Board, I'm Ken Ambrose, Glenbrook. I don't know if I'm the closer, but I submit that this demonstration test is utterly disingenuous. When you reduce capacity, you increase congestion. Increase congestion, you get gridlock, you get all of the negative consequences. It's borderline gross negligence. So I would urge the board and the governor and NDOT to listen to your constituents, the people who elected you and who pay your salaries. That's all I have to say.
Let's go home.
Thank you, Mr. Ambrose. Ms. Larkin, any other further public comment?
There does not appear to be any.
Well, I want to just publicly thank everybody for their comments today. Appreciate that. Do we have any public comment here to the south? I got my directions turned around. Gary, anybody online? Anybody with phone? All right, we will close the public comment section. I appreciate everybody's time and effort in that, and I will ask for a motion for adjournment.
Cyrus Anthony, move for adjournment.
Andy Matthews, second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Okay. Well.